Welcome, dear students of class 8. We will start today the second part of the lesson Grandfather and the Python. That's the fifth lesson. We continue from last page, that was 67. We were on 67, and we will now proceed to the other part, that is after that page 68, starting from here. So, starting from here, dear students, what happens or further development takes place in the story that we will see. Aunt Mabel arrived the next day for a 3 weeks visit. We saw that there was a talk that Aunt Mabel was going to come, and the grandmother had said that the aunt will be very afraid, and if she comes to know about the python, she will not come to the house. And for a couple of days, grandfather and I were a little apprehensive in the case of a python made a sudden reappearance. But on the third day, when it didn't show up, we felt confident that he had gone for food. So here you can see that the python, which was likely to be present when Aunt Mabel was there, that situation didn't arise because for 2 days it didn't see, and on the third day when the python was not seen, it was felt that he had gone for good, means he's gone away. That was something for sure. Further, and then towards evening, we were startled by a scream from the garden. But now all of a sudden, what happens? There was a scream. Seconds later, Aunt Mabel came flying up for veranda steps, looking as though she had seen a ghost. भूत देख लिया ऐसे दौड़ के ना Aunt Mabel नीचे से आई. In the guava tree, she gasped. I was reaching for guava when I saw it staring at me. The look of its eyes as though it would devour me. ऐसे देख रहा था जैसे मुझे खा जाएगा. Devour means to eat quickly. Calm down, my dear, urged grandmother, sprinkling her with eau de cologne. Calm down and tell us what you saw. So water was sprinkled on her face to make her alert, and told that the agitation that she was showing, she should now calm down and tell us what you saw. मुझे बताओ क्या हुआ, क्या देखा? A snake, sobbed Aunt Mabel. She was sobbing, crying very bitterly. A great boa constrictor. Boa constrictor is a large snake. You can see over here a large South American variety of snake. I must have been 20 feet long. It must be 20 feet, 20 feet lamba, in the guava tree. Its eyes were terrible. It looked at me in such a queer way. Queer means in a strange way it was looking. In the next paragraph, we see that my grandparents looked significantly at each other. Both grandmother and grandfather looking at each other. I'll go out and kill it. And sheepishly taking hold of the umbrella, sallied out, means rushed out into the garden. But then he reached the guava tree. The python had disappeared. वहाँ से गायब. Aunt Mabel must have frightened it away, I said. Hush, said grandfather. We mustn't keep of your aunt in that way. But his eyes were alive with laughter. So this way your aunt cannot be paid. She should not be frightened and kept in her house. She should be enjoying over here. After this incident, the python began to make a series of appearances. The appearance of python again, often in the most unexpected places. जहाँ पे नहीं दिखना चाहिए वहाँ पे वो दिख रहा था. Aunt Mabel had another fit of hysterics, emotional feeling hysteria, when she saw him admiring her from under a cushion. She packed her bags, and grandmother made us intensify the hunt. So she's now afraid that the python might get into her bag. So she gets her bag packed so the bag will not be made a place to live by this python. And the grandmother made us intensify the hunt. देखो वो कहाँ है ना, उसको पकड़ के मार दो या फिर उसको फेंक दो. Next morning I saw the python curled up in the dressing table. You can see over here in the next day, this dressing table is there, and on that there is this python, looking into the mirror. So that incident is, seen over here. A reflection of the mirror. I went for grandfather, but by the time we returned, the python had moved elsewhere. A little later, he had seen he was seen in the garden again. फिर garden में देखा गया उसको. When he was back in the dressing table, admiring himself in the mirror, evidently he had become enamored. He had fallen in love of his own reflection. Grandfather observed that perhaps the attention he was receiving from everyone had made him a little conceited, greatly proud of. He was that this all are admiring me. See, all are looking out for me. These type of feeling the writer feels that must be in the mind of this python. He's trying to look better for Aunt Mabel, I said. A remark that I intensely regretted because grandmother overheard it and brought for flat her broad hand down on my head. See, the writer is a comedy or a fun for fun. He says that attention was receiving for every he was enamored and he's trying to look better for Aunt Mabel. This python wants to fall in love with Aunt Mabel, and therefore is looking in the mirror and grooming himself, or trying to see that how his looks can be made such that Aunt Mabel will look at him, and he will enjoy that emotional feeling. I said remark that I instantly regretted because grandmother overheard it and brought her flat. So here he gets the grandmother gives her a rebuke to him and physically hits her. He is trying to look better for Aunt Mabel. That remark by the author became known to grandmother, and then that flat hand is beaten with on his head. Well, now we know his weaknesses, said grandfather. So his weaknesses we know. What are the weaknesses? Are you trying to be funny too? Demanded grandmother, looking her in the most threatening. So here when the writer says that what's the funny thing about this python, I know, and therefore I'll fix that thing and we will be free of its fury. I only meant he was becoming very, very vain, said grandfather hastily. It should be easy to catch him now. Now it would be easy to catch. How? He set about preparing a large cage with a mirror. At one end in the cage, we left juicy chicken and various other delicacies and fitted up the opening with a trapdoor. So they want to trap this because the weak point of this python of admiring itself in the mirror was the weak point of it. And weak point of this python, and therefore it was decided that if a cage or a trap which is made for this python to be caught, then a mirror was necessary to be in the trapdoor as a bait. Bait means आप रैट को पकड़ने को जिस तरह पिंजरे में से खाने को चीज़ रखी जाती है ना, वैसे अगर ये पाइथन के लिए अगर मिरर होगा तो वो बहुत ही बढ़िया रहेगा. Aunt Mabel had already left by the time he had this trap ready. ट्रैप बन गया. ट्रैप पीछे में जो पिंजरा था जिसमें पाइथन को पकड़ना था वो बन गया था, लेकिन तब तक Aunt Mabel चली गई थी. But we had to go on with the project because we had this trap ready. But he had to go to with the project because we couldn't keep the python prowling about the house indefinitely. Proudly, if he moves about, moving quietly and carefully about an area, and can hurt and harm or frighten that thing in the house, was to be, restricted by this python had to be restricted for that thing if it does, and that the house indefinitely they decided to get him trapped and move it out of the house. For a few days, nothing happened, and then I was leaving for school one day. I saw the python curled up in the cage. He had eaten everything left out for him, and was relaxing in front of the mirror with something resembling a smile of his face. If you can imagine a python smiling, I lowered the trap door gently, but the python took on no notice. He was in raptures. He was very happy, full of enjoyment over his handsome reflection. Seeing in the mirror, he gets that ecstasy of happiness. Grandfather and the gardener put the cage in the honey trap and made a journey to the other side of the riverbed. They left the cage in the jungle with the trapdoor open. So, with this, they were successful in getting the snake trapped into the cage, and then he was riding the pony and was taken to the other side of the river where it would be left to be getting out of the trap and into the forest, into the jungle, so that it would not be problematic for the house of the grandfather. He made no attempt to get out, said grandfather later. बाद में grandfather ने बोला कि बाहर आने का उसको कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं था. And I didn't have the heart to make the mirror away. और मुझे मिरर ले लेने का भी वो केज में से कोई शौक नहीं था. It's the first time I've seen a snake fall in love. So that you're indirectly to say that a snake has fallen in love with something, and that's the mirror. And the mirror has been used as a prop to intensify the content of this story. तो यहाँ पर हम देख सकते हैं कि द मिरर और स्नेक दो इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग है that helps to make fun. The writer Ruskin Bond writes children's stories very well, and a dangerous python is itself, you think of it and it makes you afraid. But Ruskin Bond, a lover of animals, and he live in Dehradun, and still he's there in 98 some age, and he is a marvelous writer and animal lover. His stories reflect that. A room for the room for no room for some animal. That also is one of the story of his I got that day to read, and such type of incidents and stories that have been written. And when he stayed over there in the very lush green hill station which we see Dehradun, so at present also stays there. He's an animal lover, and about this python, a dangerous animal. If you imagine about this animal and you get frightened in the imagination, such a long 20 feet, 25 feet, long snake with very thick body, it can constrict you and kill you. That animal has been depicted in a very funny way in this story, and it creates a lot of fun for the children who might otherwise be very afraid of the snake. So with this, children, we complete the lesson over here. The textual question answers I will forward to you in the next session. Till then, goodbye and see you.